UiPath Africa series, Become an RPA Citizen Developer. So this session is about the UI automation or the user interface automation. So that's what the agenda is. We are going to run our first UI bot or the user interface bot in today's session. So again, this is going to be a hands-on session. I would recommend everyone to open the UiPath StudioX and do all of these steps that I'm doing on the screen with me. I'll be taking the pauses so that you can also follow me along. So this is our team for today. It's me, Nidhi, again, senior RP engineer with Citrix and also the UiPath MVP. We also have Emmanuel and Christina with us. Okay, so before we actually start the session, let's look at the agenda today. So we'll be verifying if the installation of StudioX has been done properly on your system or not. Then we'll be looking at what is user interface automation, what does the term actually means. Then we're looking at what are the StudioX activities that help you to automate your day-to-day task that involves UI. Now we'll be creating our first automation project, which will be based on a web page. So we'll be seeing how you can create a automation if you're interacting with a web page, right? And next we'll be doing is how you can create your bots faster using the recording feature of UiPath StudioX. Then we'll be looking at how you can automate the UI-based application if that is a desktop application. We'll be open for the Q&A later on, and then we'll be giving you a few of the resources you can follow along for the academic courses. So this is going to be the agenda. And now let's start with the first topic, which says installation process verification for the UiPath StudioX. We'll be just verifying if you have followed the correct steps to install the UiPath on your systems. So I'll just repeat the steps again, which we did in the first session. So first thing that you have to do is go and sign up on UiPath Automation Cloud. The URL for the UiPath Automation Cloud is cloud.uipath.com. On the right-hand side, you will see the option to sign up, create your account there, and then you will see a blue button to download the UiPath Studio. Just click on that button and the installer file will be downloaded. Once it is downloaded successfully, you have to double click on it and it will start the installation. Once the installation is done, what you have to do is choose the profile as UiPath StudioX. So since we know that the UiPath Studio and StudioX comes into the same installer file, again, do not get confused. The download file is same. And once the installation is done, you have to go and choose the profile as UiPath StudioX. So I'm hoping this all has been done by you. If not, please check the recording for the first session, where you'll find all the steps to download the UiPath StudioX on your screen and get started. Now, these are the few of the Academy links you can follow to start your automation journey as an RPA Citizen developer. As you can see on the screen, it has all the courses, which includes user interface automation, word automation, decision and iterations, error handling, and everything, right? So please go ahead and take up this course. Okay, with that, now let's start with the agenda, the main agenda of today's session, which is introduction to user interface or the UI automation, right? So in the first session, I was getting a lot of queries how we can automate something that you are opening on a web page, or if you're opening something as a desktop application. This is what we'll be covering in today's session. So if you look at the definition on the screen right now, a user interface or UI is a series of screens, pages, and visual elements like buttons and input fields that enables you to interact with an application. So before we actually understand what is user interface automation, let's first understand the term, the user interface, what it actually is. It is nothing but a series of pages, screens, or the visual elements, just like buttons, input fields, which you can see on the screen of your application that help you to interact with that particular application. This is something you can see on the screen right now. We have two pictures. There is a form which says first name. Then we have a text box, the last name. We have another text box. We have few of the radio buttons. We have the drop down and we have the browse button. So all of these controls and all of these fields are helping you to interact with that particular application. So these are all what the user interface is termed as. Now let's understand the term UI automation. So UI automation is the process of simulating mouse and keyboard actions on windows and controls, right? So now if you look, how do you interact with these UI elements? If you're filling up a form online, how do you enter your first name? You have to type it on a keyboard. How do you enter your last name or email address? You will be typing again something on the keyboard, right? How will you click on the submit button? You will be using a mouse click, right? So this is what the UI automation helps you to do. It helps you to simulate mouse and keyboard actions that you're performing on the screen on behalf of you. That's all. That's what the UI automation is all about. Now, as a business user, you interact with a lot of business applications, for example, internet browsers, calculators, CRMs, right? And these are all what comes under the category of user interface automation, right? And we'll be looking at how you can automate most of your interactions with these applications using UiPath StudioX. So that's what all about the user interface term and the UI automation means. Okay, so now we will be looking at what are the activities in StudioX you can use to perform the UI automation or create an automation that involves UI task. Now, these are some of the activities I have listed. There are a few more. If you want to explore more, you can see on the right-hand side picture under the app and web category, you will be getting all the activities that UiPath StudioX gives you to automate. Now, all the interactions with the UI can be split into two categories. One is the input category and the other one is the output category, right? So whatever you are doing on user interface, it can be split into either input or output. Input simply means that you're sending or adding something to the application. For example, if you look at the few of the activities that comes under the input category, click. You are sending a click activity to the application, right? Type into, you are again sending some data into the application. Select item, you are selecting any item from the drop down. Check, uncheck, you are checking a particular box or unchecking something. So you are sending or adding something to the application, right? Now again, coming to the output category, which means getting something from the application. Now there are again certain activities which comes under the output, which means get text, get URL, get active window, and extract table data. Now in these cases, what you're doing is you are reading something from the application, or in simple terms, you're getting something from the application. If you're reading, for example, again, same thing, current stock value or current currency rate, you are reading again, you are getting something from the application. So again, these all comes under the output category. Now, one thing that we have to understand here is we have resources in StudioX, which helps you to connect with the applications. And once you are connected with the application, then only you can perform these actions on the screen. So for the UI automation, the resource that we use is the use application browser. Again, this is something you can see it on this particular picture. And these are the actions that are available if you are connected with that particular application. So these are few of the examples for the UI automation, which you can use to build your automations. Now, this is going to be a hands-on session, since I said, right? So we are going to create a very fast UI automation bot. This is what we'll be doing it live. So I would recommend all of you to open the UiPath StudioX and perform the actions on the screen by following me. Okay, so I'll post a link. Please open it in your browsers. Okay, so this is a web page, And we are trying to put some of the values manually into this application, and this is what we are going to automate. If you have attended the first session, this is something we did, but we did not actually deep dive much about how we are performing these actions, how I am dragging the activities, what are the values I'm putting. So we are going to cover this particular example or the use case in a detailed today. So this is the URL, and please open it on your laptops or your systems. To create the first robot, these are the steps we are going to follow. We'll open the StudioX and create a new project, and make sure that you have the browser extension installed in the browser. And then we'll start with the StudioX workflow. So if you want to check whether the extension has been installed on your browser or not, as we looked into the first session, you have to go to the settings, extensions, and make sure this particular extension has been installed and as well as enabled. So I've just now enabled the developer mode and as well as enabled this extension. Let me also open the UiPath Studio. So what we are going to do today is we are going to enter the name in this particular field, choose the month and get the unicorn name. And once we read the unicorn name from the screen, we are going to display it in the message box. So this is something you maybe do it in your day-to-day life. You must be filling up some forms in online web pages, right? Or reading something from a web page. So this is again going to be a web automation. It means something you are opening on a web page and trying to automate it. So that's why you will also need the extension to be installed in your browsers. And we have the UiPath StudioX opened. If I go to settings, if I go to tools, here is where you can find all the extensions. If you're not using Chrome, if you're using Firefox or Edge, make sure you install these particular extensions. Again, let me go back and create a new project. So once you are on the home screen of StudioX, you will see this blank task. Click on this. Give your project a meaningful name.
Okay,
and click on the create button. This may take a while again to create your very first project. Okay, now so we have the blank project ready. What we want to do is we want to automate the manual steps we are performing on this particular page. Okay, so since we know that since we are automating a web page, something that we will need is a resource first to connect with the application. So we'll be using use application browser. I'll simply drag it to the workflow. You can also use the double click again. Now it says indicate application to automate. I'll use a left mouse click and indicate it on the web page. Make sure the correct tab is opened on your systems. Once you can see this green screen which says click to select application, again do a left mouse click. Now you can see the screen is there, the screenshot of your application and as well as the URL which the UiPath has already taken. So now we have connected with this particular web page. Now let's start performing these steps. First thing that we have to do, we want to type, and the type comes under the input category, right? So you can also search in the app and web automation category. So if you're doing the UI automation, all the actions or the activities will be under this particular, right? So, or if you know the activity name, you can simply search it from here. Now I'll take the typing tool and drag it inside this particular scope. Now something that we have to take care here is we are not keeping it outside the resource activity, right? So if you put it outside, now you can see the error which says this activity must be inside a user application browser because you want to type, but where do you want to type? You haven't mentioned it. So always make sure that you put the actions inside the resources. So now there's no more error. Now indicate in Chrome, we'll click on this and say this is where we want to type. Once you see this green rectangular, this text box, it means this is your target where you want to perform the action. Do a left mouse click. And now this is your target and this is your anchor. Anchor, as we know, it helps you to uniquely identify an element on the screen. So that's why we will be needing an anchor. Suppose you have two text box on the screen. So how the automation is going to identify which particular text box it is supposed to type into. So that's where the anchor comes into the picture. It means a text box just next to this particular text is where you want to type, right? So make sure you also choose the anchor. We'll choose target and anchor and click on the confirm button, right? So now we know that we want to type, but what we want to type, we'll click on this plus button and say text. Once this text builder page opens, just type whatever you want to type and press the save button. Now the typing action is done. I'll take a pause of 5 seconds for you to perform these actions on your screen. Also make sure that you're following along the activities name because we have the Menti quiz at the end of this session, where we'll be checking the knowledge and giving the giveaways. Okay, now let's continue with the next action. We want to select the month from this drop-down, right? So for this, we have an activity known as select item. I'll simply choose this activity from the activities panel. Here you can see it is under the app and web automation category only. So make sure you follow the sequence correct. After the type into, you want to select the item. So just do a left mouse click and this is your target. Do a left mouse click. And it has automatically given you the anchor. If you're sure, just click on the confirm button. Once you do this, now you can see it has already taken all the values from the web page. You do not have to do anything. Just choose the value that you want to use. So this is my birth month, which is June, which is coming in 2 months. So yeah, that's all we have type into, and then we have the select item. So again, I'll take a pause of a few seconds for you to do. Again, if you have any queries, post your questions on the chat window. We'll be taking it at the end of the session. Okay, now next thing that we have to do is we have to click on this particular button. Since it's very obvious that we are performing a click action, the activity that we will need is a click activity. So I'll just go and search with the name click, and we have it. I'll put it after the select item, and same thing we are going to do, left mouse click. This is the element. Now you can see this is a single button on the screen. So even though you do not give the anchor, that's completely fine. So this is what we are going to see. You can see no anchor automatically found. But if you still want to give it, you can give it. But since it's a single button, that's optional. I'll say confirm. And that's all. You do not have to enter any values here, but you can select what kind of click you want to do and the mouse button. So we are doing single left click, right? So we are done with the third activity on the web page, which is click. So you can see the activities name are something very obvious that we also use in a general terms. Type into when you want to type something on the screen, select when you want to select some item from the drop down, click when you want to click a particular button. And this is something we actually do them using the keyboard and the mouse. So the automation bot is going to simulate all of these actions on behalf of you. Okay, so I hope the click function is also done. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to read this particular value. And to do this, we have an activity called as get text. And I'll drag it here. Indicate where is the value. This is the target. Now here we have to identify or give the anchor very intelligently, because if I give this as the anchor, this is supposed to be changed. For example, if Christina is going to enter, is going to run this automation for herself, here her name will be coming Christina and the bot will fail because this is not the anchor what we have created the bot for, right? But something which is not going to change in the screen every time is this particular text. So we are going to make this as the anchor. So make sure you choose the anchor wisely. Do not choose the values which are supposed to change in each automations. So once we are done, click on the confirm button and this will read the value from the screen. So this comes under the output category. You are reading something from the screen. Now, where do you want to save the value which you have just read from the screen? Click on the plus button and you have these options. For this automation, I'll simply copy it to the clipboard. So this is done. Now we have the value and I want to display this value in a message box. So I'll use an activity called as message box. Here it is. I'll simply drag it after the get text. Again, click on the plus button and say paste from the clipboard. So something that you pasted in the clipboard will be displayed here, right? So these are the activities we are going to perform on the screen. So we are opening a page on a browser, which is Chrome. This is the URL. We are going to type the name, selecting the month, clicking on the get name, reading something from the screen and displaying it. So these are the steps. This is very basic steps, but in your day-to-day task, you may be filling up a form for say 1,000 applications. You must be onboarding employees on your day-to-day life if you're someone working in the HR. So again, this is very basic, but this can be done for a number of employees or a number of people. I hope this is done and I'll now press on the run button. I'll refresh the page so that there are no values. And what you have to do is simply click on this run button. And now we will see a first bot in the action. Month, click, and this is my unicorn name. I'll be waiting for all of you to ping your unicorn names in the chat window so that we can see who got what. And let's see what other interesting names we've got.
Nidhi, Peter said you should recap, like you should go over it, just a summary.
Sorry, Emmanuel, are we running out of time?
No, at all. Someone said you should do a summary.
Summary for the automation. Okay,
Yes,
I'll do it.
yes.
No worries. Okay, so since we are doing a web-based automation, what we are doing first is we are connecting our application with an activity called as resource. You can find all of these resources in the activities panel. So if you go to the resources, if you're working with the application, which is opening on browser, use this. Again, if you're working with the other application, if automating a Word file, you use this resource. If you're automating a Gmail, you use this resource, right? So in our case, we have to use application browser. Once we are connected with the application, now we want to perform some of the tasks on that screen, right? So the actions first we were supposed to do is we were supposed to type a value in this particular text field. So that's why we are using a type into activity first. You have to indicate where you want to type, and to mention the value, you have to click on this plus button and go to the text part. This will open the text builder and you can mention the value here, what you want to do. So for example, if instead of my name, you want to enter Christina, this is the value you are supposed to give here. Once you're done, you want to select the item from the screen, which is from this particular drop down. That's why we are using an activity called as select item. So this is the activity we are using. To choose the value from the drop down, for example, I want to choose June as the value. You will find all the values from the web page automatically populated here. So we'll just choose the value we want to put. Now the next thing that we want to do is click on this particular button. That's why we are using an activity called as click. So we are using a click activity with a single left mouse click. So these are the default values. If you want to change it, you can do it. But in our case, we'll keep single left mouse click. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to read something from the screen. That's why we are using an activity called as get text. Once we are reading that particular value from the screen, which will be coming up right here, and we are giving anchor as this, we will be saving it somewhere in the automation to be used later. So in our case, we have just copied it to clipboard. You will have many other options. So if I clear the value, click on the plus button, you can also save it for the later use. So in our case, we are just pasting it into the clipboard. Now the next thing that we want to do is whatever we have read from the screen just now, we'll be displaying it in the message box. That's why we are using an activity called as message box. What we want to display? We want to display something we just now copied to the clipboard. So click on the plus button and say paste from clipboard. There are other options that you want to also choose. If you want to just simply display a text, you can open the text builder and mention what you want to display. Yeah. So that's all as a part of the summary. Make sure that you follow the sequence of the activities correctly so that it performs the action in sequence. Since it is a low code, no code platform, we are not supposed to do any sort of coding. This is simply drag and drop, click and type into we are doing. Right. So I hope now this is clear, or do you have any further questions or you want me to cover anything else? Okay, so now let's move on to the next. Hey, we have the lovely names in the chat, I can see. Cool. Let's now jump into the next session. Okay, so congratulations, you have built your first robot and you have your first unicorn name too. Please paste it in the chat window. Now let's look at the next topic, which says automate faster recording UI interactions. Now, something that we created a workflow just now was using the drag and drop activities from the activities panel, but there's something in the UiPath StudioX that you can use to create these automations faster. What is that? This is something called as Web App Recorder feature. So since the name is very obvious, it is a recording feature that helps you to record all of the actions you're performing on the screen, and it will create a whole workflow for you. You do not have to remember the activities that you're supposed to use. Okay, so as you can see in the picture, this is something you will find in the design tab as App Web Recorder. So again, the second method to automate user interfaces is using the Web App Recorder. Now, why do we need this particular feature in the UiPath StudioX? Adding activities for all the actions you perform within user interfaces can become quite time consuming, right? So suppose this is something that we created for 4 actions on the screen. Now, suppose in a form you have 10 input fields, 4 submit buttons, and few more fields to automate. And you will be dragging, dropping, and doing all of these tasks all over again. So for this, we have this app and web recording feature. Let's see how you can use recording feature to record all of your actions and create the workflow by itself. Now, can I use recorder on all applications? The recorder works only on automating user interfaces. It will not work for tasks involving Excel, Outlook, Word, or files and folder. So make sure that you're using the app and web recorder only when you're automating a UI-based application. Now, this is the second demo for the day where we will be creating a strong password. Again, the steps are same. We will be opening the UiPath StudioX. Make sure you have the extension enabled on your systems. You can see it on the screen. If you're working on Firefox or Edge or Chrome, you install the browser extension as per your browser only. And then we'll be recording all of these steps. We are doing it on the screen. And let's see how the recording feature can help you to create the automations better and faster. For that, we'll be using a URL. I'll be pasting it in the chat window. Okay, let me post. So please open this URL on your systems. Okay, so something that we are going to do using the recording feature is we will be typing the password length here. We will be unchecking this particular symbol and we will be copying the value to the clipboard. So these are the 3 steps we are going to perform, and we will see how you can use the recording feature to record all of your actions from the screen and create an automation workflow. Let me refresh the page again. And I'll delete this whole workflow. So simply select the whole resource and press delete, or you can also create a new project. Okay, so I hope you all have opened this particular URL, and let's start using the app and web recorder feature. In the design tab, you will be seeing this particular icon. And if I hover it, you can see the app web recorder uses a new approach for UI automation and anchor based, which we just now saw. So now how to use it? Simply do a click. And now you can see it is identifying all the elements on the screen, right? So what we have to do first is we want to type something here. So I'll bring my mouse here and you can see this green rectangular box coming up. I'll do a left mouse click. And now it automatically gives me the option type a value, because it knows it is a text box already, right? So I'll say I want to type 12. It has automatically identified the anchor as well. You did not have to do anything, right? Now, this particular empty field means if you want to delete the previous value from this and then type, because if you do not use this empty field, what is going to do is it will type 2412, which you do not want to do. You want to first delete the previous value and then you want to type. So make sure you do this, right? Now simply click on the confirm button. That's all. Now you can see here in this particular window, you have the use browser activity already. Inside this, we have the type into activity already given by the app in web record feature, right? So in case you do not, you're not sure which activity to be used where, you can use this particular feature. This is really very handy, right? It automatically gives you that this is the type into activity. Also, if you are doing the same repetitions, if you are filling up a form again, which says multiple fields, and you do not want to simply drag and drop the same activities in a sequence, you can use it, right? Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to uncheck this. So you can see this comes under the green rectangular. I'll choose this. This is the target. And this is an anchor. Sorry, this is the target, right? And it says check or uncheck. It has already taken the action as uncheck, but if you want to toggle it, toggle means if it is check, uncheck it. If it's uncheck, check it, right? So if you want to toggle the actions, this is what you can use. In our case, we want to uncheck this particular checkbox. So we'll keep uncheck as it is selected. This is done. Now, the third thing that we want to do is we want to click on this particular icon, which is going to paste the value of this particular password that is generated in the clipboard. So we want to click here. So again, I'll bring the mouse and this comes under this green rectangular. So do a left mouse click. And now you can see here, now you can see this click activity has been added to the as a next step, right? So we have just recorded the steps we are doing on the screen. What we are doing is we are first typing in the value, then we are unchecking a particular checkbox, and then we are clicking on the clipboard button, right? So these are the 3 steps we are going to perform on the screen, and we have recorded it, and we will click on this save and return to studio option. I'll just do it, and now you can simply see on the screen your whole workflow is ready. You did not have to do anything. You do not have to remember the activity. You do not have to remember the sequence also. Everything has been created for you. So this is how you can create your bot faster, right? Now, one question that comes to our mind is this customizable? If something that I've recorded and it has created the workflow, can I edit it later? The answer is yes, you can do it. For example, if you say in the type into activity, you are typing 12, right? If you want to change it to say 13, you can actually do it, right? So this is completely customizable. Now, if you see, you have copied something in the clipboard. Now you want to display that particular password value again in a message box. So let's put that particular value in the message box again. I'll use the activity. So as you can see, right, I can add any activity in this sequence. It is something very similar to what we created previously, right? So I'll click on the plus button and say paste from clipboard, because this, when we click on this icon, let me show you, when we click on this icon, which says copy to clipboard, your value will be copied to the clipboard, and we want to display that value in the message box. So this is where the message box will come, and we want to display that value, right? So these are the, so this is the another feature of StudioX, which says FN Web Recorder to create your automation even faster. I'll simply refresh the page and I'll press the run button again. Now you can see on the screen, steps are being performed, everything is being done. We have the message box which says the same password as we have on the screen, right? So now you can see in minimum time, we have created this bot, right? Now again, you can save a lot of your time while even creating the bots. So this is all about how you can perform the web-based automation using the UI-based activities in the StudioX. For this, let me show you the package that you have to make sure it is installed. So this particular package, which says UiPath.UI.automation.activities, this should be installed in your StudioX, right? So if you're facing any challenges, make sure you come and check if this package is there or not, and it is to the latest version. Okay, so this all about the UI-based automation. Now let's jump to the next topic. Emmanuel, can you confirm how much time we have?
10 minutes, Nidhi. We have 12 minutes. So 10 to 12 minutes. We will take the questions at the end, but there is one from Oladele now, which asks whether there is any disadvantage from instead of using the app recorder overdoing it themselves. If there are any differences or disadvantages between using the app recorder and doing the recording of the steps themselves.
There are no disadvantages using the app and web recorder. The only thing is it is compatible with the UI-based applications. So if you are doing any other automation which says Word, Excel, Outlook, you cannot use this recorder. It is only compatible for the UI automation. That's the only difference, or the only thing that you will find as a disadvantage, you can say, but nothing except this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll take the rest of the questions at the end.
Sure, Christina. Okay, now let's jump to the next topic, which says what more can be automated with UI. So something till now that we saw was all on the web page or was everything in the browser. Now, if there is an application you are opening as on your desktop, or it is a desktop application, can you automate this? The answer is yes. You can use the UI automation on the desktop based application as well. So there was one of the question in the first session which said there are certain CRM based applications which they want to automate. So again, if that falls under the desktop application, you are opening it on your system as a desktop application, you can simply automate them using the activities of UI. This is one of the example we are going to see. There is a dummy application we will be trying to automate. And this is something available on the Academy course. So you can download this application on the Academy course as well. So these are the steps we are going to perform. We'll open the UiPath StudioX, and then we are going to create the automation bot for this as well. Okay, now let's jump to the application quickly. Now, this is the application that we are going to see. Yeah, so this is a desktop application. A few examples that you use in your day-to-day life is a calculator, which also is installed on your systems, and it opens up as a desktop application, right? You do not have to go to a browser, open a URL, hit the URL, and then open it, or you do not need an internet connection to open these applications, right? So apart from the web-based automation, you can also perform the automation on such applications, and this is what we are going to see. Now, this is again the sequence I will delete. And this is the application, right? Again, you can use the app and web recorder in this particular application as well if you want to, but let's do it from the scratch first. First, to connect with this application, we will need a resource, right? And you can see the resource itself says use application/browser, right? It means it is compatible to automate either the browser-based applications or the desktop applications. So again, I'll drag it to the workflow. And when it says indicate the applications, I'll click on it and I'll go to the applications. And now this is highlighted. I'll do a left mouse click and you can see the application path has been already populated, right? So this is your application path. If I go and show you here, this is exactly where my application is, and it has already taken that path. This is a screenshot of your application, and now everything works exactly same that we saw in the web-based automation. Now, something that you have to see is match exact title. So right now, the title of the application says double UI. If I do check on this particular option, it means the title of the application should always be double UI. For example, in some of the applications, what happens is there would be timestamp appended along with the title, right? Or always there would be some dynamic values that are coming in the title, right? So if you are automating these applications, make sure you uncheck this, because otherwise it is going to match the exact same title with the application. So this is what you have to do. Right now, let's see what we can do it here. We'll click on this. We'll type some value here. And when we are going to click the accept button here, right here, right? So can we use the app and web recorder? Definitely yes. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a click activity. This is here, and I'll drag it inside this particular scope itself. So remember, always put your activities inside the resource. Indicate, this is where my target is. This is what my anchor is. And clicking on the confirm button, right? And then I want to type some of the values. Again, the type into activity, I'll keep it here. I'll say this is where I want to type. Again, now you can see on this particular screen, you have 3 identical text boxes. That's why we have to mention the anchor here. So this is the anchor, and click on the confirm button and done. Now, the next thing that we want to do is click on the accept button. Before that, we want to type something. So let's mention the value that we want to type. So I'll click on text and just mention any number, right? And now the next thing is the accept, and you will get a new transaction number every time, right? And we want to read that particular transaction number. So remember the activity, it was get text. So whenever you are reading something from the screen, use the get text activity. So we are reading this value, this is the target, and this is your anchor. So any value which is next to the transaction number tab, click on the confirm button, and let's display this particular value in the message box again. Before that, we'll have to save the value we have just now read from the screen. So click on the plus button and say copy to clipboard. We have read the value and copied it to the clipboard, and I will simply paste it in the message box. So plus button, paste from clipboard. So again, you can see we are using same set of activities to automate a desktop application as well, because this falls under the UI or the user interface automation. So Now let's press the run button. Now you can see checked, typed, clicked, and now we have got the value as well. So this is very simple and straightforward. The activities that we use are very basic. And if you do not sure which activity you have to use, you can use the app and web recorder feature that helps you to create the automation workflow by recording whatever you're performing on the screen. So yes, that's all for today. These are few of the Academy resources that you can use to further learn the UI automation. This is the document from the UiPath, which you can follow again. And now we are open for the Q&A.
Okay. Guys, any questions? Can you leave the cover of the PPT on share screen, please, Nidhi?
Sure, Christina.
Let me give you the right to. Okay, so now you can unmute yourselves and ask questions live, please. Anmol, ask it live.
Amol, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi
Come on.
Nidhi, hi Christina, hi everyone. So my question
Hi,
is
Amol.
like right now, yeah, hi. So right now Nidhi just displayed like the particular number, right? The text. So suppose I want to mention like transaction number along with the particular number. So that how we are going to fetch the text.
So Anmol, your question is you want to display transaction number and then
Hash,
that value.
yeah. Yes.
Right.
So altogether,
So
yeah.
yes, we can do it. We can simply, concatenate both of these values. So let me show you quickly how we can do it. So if you want to display something, there's something called as text, right? So if you go here, let's say you do not want to paste the direct value, you can say transaction number, right? Whatever way you want, and say this, then you press plus and paste from clipboard. Now you will get the value, transaction number, and then your value, right? This is what your question is.
Yes, Nidhi.
Yes, yeah. So you can use this plus button and you can mention your text as well as something that you're reading from the screen as well. Right? So maybe let me run this. The run button. Yeah, now it's running. So now you can see this is how you'll get it, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Nidhi.
Any other question, guys?
Okay, so I see Afe posted again the links to our African chapters. Afe, can you post the citizen developer chapter too, please? Because that's where they will have most follow-up sessions on StudioX also.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay,
Come
thank
on,
you,
guys.
Afi.
Any other questions for
question?
Nidhi? This is your last occasion to ask Nidhi a question. I think this is her last session on the series.
Yes,
Yes.
you're correct.
If there are no questions, this means that you really got it right. So we know that Nidhi is a very good trainer, and I hope you absorbed this knowledge. And we can move to the Menti quiz then.
Yes, we can.
Okay, wait a bit. I will share the screen in a minute. Okay, wait. Okay, guys, can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So go to Menti.
Okay, this is the code. I will paste it in chat. Go to menti.com. So www.menti.com. You know the drill already because you've been through this all these days. So this is the code of the session. And I'll be here waiting for you to join.